Brian Northwood.
Yeah. So okay. So I guess you're the lead. So I got it's up there. The objectives. So somebody can do a scribe. But I'm not going to talk anymore. I'm not going to lead it anymore.
So how do we want to go about this? I mean, as a group here, right? Do we want to just go over each one individually and try and wrap these up first, and then discuss what some of the issues that we were facing and how to tackle them? Because to me, it seems very important for us to do some discussions around that as well.
At least if you're going to speak, I mean, probably you keep on line, you get the microphone. I know I keep myself quiet.
What were we going to ask?
No, I mean, I was thinking at least the activities that we have, all the activities that we have deployed for getting one.
Yes.
Yeah. There's more. There's like 10 of them.
Yep.
12 things.
I'm feeling that the first one seems to be check. The question that Justin put there on the chat, that's for a different discussion.
Yeah. Well,
Justin was asking, the chat question about saying that what are the things that we're doing, like on testing alternatives, like the double crop simulation, and then maybe connecting to what Mimi was asking about the forages. What are the things or alternative forages that we're testing? And then the challenge with our rotation right now is that, we discussed many times about this, it's very fixed and it's hard to change anything. And it's hard to even try different crops. So that's why we start putting some satellite products, which is really, we were discussing with Ignacio today. Even if we want to try something different diversification, it's creating more and more work until the point of saying how much we can maintain collecting intensive data here, or should we collect more data from satellite studies to really think about diversification. Because here, from my opinion, this is my only opinion, we are playing safe. But this is the first year that probably we're not playing that safe because some of the corn that we planted in July is just flowering. But it's part of testing something different. If not, can we grow corn? Yes, we can grow corn. But can you grow corn if you plant in July?
Yeah, and that part of the question, it translates to our winter crops too, because some of the crops you're going to see on Juan's presentation, the baseline was the highest yielding treatment that we had so far for wheat, right? But now on the rotation, that's probably going to be very different. So it seems like we have a couple of different things going on. First, we have this table here, and we could briefly go through it and at least check if everybody thinks we are in line here. And then we can go into some of these more, deeper discussions on which rotations should be considering, how to manage the weeds, and perhaps even the data management piece of it and everything like that. I think I was talking to Dorivar as well. Communication, we're probably going to have to improve on that. It may have been on my end, not maybe seeing all emails, but so for example, I think it took me a month to figure out there was alfalfa planted after alfalfa was already planted there. And so same thing for Dorivar here. So it's just communication between the group in terms to improve there. So if everybody's okay with that, let's go through this list and make sure that we are on the same page here. And then we can switch gears and go into more the practical part of the project.
So let's go through this. Are there, just people can comment, are there some additional measurements that we learned, that we should be taking that could easily, low cost, be taking, or some measurements that we don't need to take? Maybe it's too early to tell, but in year 3, are there some things that, we should be doing this? And then maybe talk about, additional experiments, ancillary experiments, or some adjustments in that.
Excellent. That sounds good. So first thing here, Chuck, this year 5, is this already considering the 1-year no cost extension here? So we need a year 6 here.
Yeah. Well, just move everything to the right.
So we'll be checking off year 2 actually.
This is, yeah, we're starting year 3 actually, technically, but we're really, because of year 6, no cost, and learning and all that stuff, we'll really slide everything over. Yeah, you can create another. We won't have a full allotment because we spent some money in year 1, but because of COVID and all that stuff, we'll get a no-cost extension, but we should have money to push this closer. Because grad students didn't start right away and all that stuff.
Yeah, in terms of field work, almost seems to be like this year is year 1 in a way, because last year we established things, but data collection and things like that.
Right. Yeah.
Sure. So we're in sort of year 2.
So I guess the activity 101 that we had here, deploy and maintain field experiments. So it started back there on year 1, as Orivar mentioned, we probably didn't have enough it was not representative of the remaining of the study because that was just starting it. So is this something that we'll run through a possible year 6 here?
Well, we're definitely maintain.
Okay. Then, and this, I think we're going to go ahead and fill up everything here, right? So my group, order here. Ignatius, Dorivar, Hong.
Which is really Ethan. You just delegated.
And Andres, right? Andres is taking the soil moisture measurements. Collect, analyze, and crop productivity data. These will run through the remainder of the experiment as well, right? And we can look at the same responsible party. I'll just copy and paste later on. Okay, collect and analyze soil health data.
So with RU, we learned something. So Carlos and Cesar are going to be running that Cesar with Carlos's mentoring. But I think we decided we would take soil health this fall, right?
Yes.
So that's really now moved over to year 3 instead of year 4.
And will there be a, oh, sorry.
And then we'll probably do one at the end. Yeah. Every other, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine.
And the example is 3.
And the other thing that we learned, seasonality, which I had a student do seasonality down in Southeast, but it didn't have the rotations and that. So I think what we're going to do is we'll do the one season, but I think we're going to do some seasonality to look at dynamics. Because when Taryn, the RU student, took this summer and we did our baseline in the winter, we saw drastic differences, and it was partly because different times of the year, and it wasn't really, I don't think it was really a treatment mutation effect. So we're going to do a side project, extra project, but I think do a seasonality, so we'll do it multiple times during the year.
So is this something we should add as a sub activity here?
It's part of activity 1.3, it's just an enhancement of it.
Okay.
Finish collecting year 1.
So what year are you going to do that?
Well, we're going to start this fall, I think. Well, Carlos.
Well, we took baseline soil samples year 1. So if we are year 3 right now, we took samples with some selected treatments, not all, but some selected treatments. There was 4 treatments. We're going to take samples again this fall, take a look at the temporal variability of the soil properties, and we are also going to take samples in the year 6, so the last year, to be able to compare that with
and we may want to do spring.
So your seasonality will be on year 3 that you're going to look at?
Yeah.
So does something like this work, or should we, at least we're noticing there that we're going to look at the seasonality of it on year 3?
And that'll be,
The question, the year 1 from January 2020, or how are we going to define the year 1, year 2?
So year 1 at, I'm thinking
it was planted in fall of
fall 19.
19, right?
So we took samples early December 2019, all product and
fall of 2019.
So our, yeah,
So
theoretically our
starts
start
fall
date.
21.
Yeah.
Oh, so we save this.
Save it to my or desktop. Yeah.
So collect and analyze plant and soil nitrogen data. So here I kind of have a question there. And this has been up to each group, I think, at least on the plant side. I know that we're doing the plant analysis for the winter crops and Ignacio for the summer crops. Now, for the soil data, Dorivar, you looked at the baseline on year 1. Have you been collecting these on the other years as well, or is this up to each group that is planting? Because we didn't collect on the.
We've been collecting the.
I'm collecting the soil data.
Yeah, we haven't either. Yeah.
We collect samples for forage quality analysis, mainly the quick 14. There's flower conditions.
Okay.
Hey, Romulo.
Yep.
This is Brian Northup. We've been doing plant and soil measurements all the way back to 2019. So,
Okay.
you know,
well,
we're doing it.
So here we should have Ryan as well, of course.
But you're not doing it on the rotation, you're doing it on your own plots, right?
No, we're doing it. Yeah, we're doing it within the rain plots.
Oh, okay.
So it's, you know, it's just part of our thing. We don't do it on a 2-week interval like you were suggesting in that one decision tree. We kind of do it by stage of growth. We have done some of these things where we've done a lot of sampling every 2 weeks, and we find out we wind up in the same place if we go by stage of growth. So,
So Brian, you're also doing the soil health analysis there?
no, we're doing carbon, nitrogen, organic matter, soil water.
So
that's kind of the end of where we're going. A lot of these things that are defined as soil health, I'm just not really sure where that's going to go and whether we're going to actually find anything within a 3 to 5 year period. So, you know, we could do it. You're just going to tell me what we need to be measuring.
Well, the data we have is, yes, we can detect definitely within 5 years and maybe even 3.
Well, we're a little drier, a little hotter, and less fertile type soil. So, you know, we may be in a different spot than you guys. But, you know, if you can line out what it is we need to measure this fall, we can get it measured.
We'll send you that data, that protocol.
So nitrogen formula, this is something we coordinating with press. So our idea was to avoid duplicating the number of samples. We were taking samples for moisture, we analyzed for nitrogen. And so, but this is something, these are the kind of things we're talking about that avoid duplication. We probably need to clarify that a little bit more. On the plant analysis, plant sampling side, I think it's the same thing. Are we, multiple groups collecting the same sample?
Yeah, that's a good question about duplication of efforts there. I know from our side, I think we were able to coordinate with Duhong's group, with Udra, pretty well in terms of their collecting the forage ones. We collect a few extra data points if we know that we will need it. But otherwise, we can just, I don't think we duplicated any data so far. There's probably more people involved in the summer crop, so I'm not sure if there might be duplication there or not. But I know that from the soil side, we haven't collected anything from our side.
And the other thing on the soil side is that there's really many options. For example, Joe mentioned seasonality. How is soil nitrate change over the season is one possibility, but that's not something that we decided to do at the beginning. I think it would be very interesting to look at that, but that becomes kind of an extra activity, which I think is something that we can talk about.
Well, yeah, Nora and I had a little bit of much. This NUE nitrogen use efficiency question that is not here. So I guess, you know, I might be able to get an extra grad student, and I know you're getting, I've gotten one.
Yes, she's here.
Oh, okay. Oh, you did say, yeah, you did interview, so sorry. So I guess that's the question is, one or the other, or something we can talk about, maybe doing nitrogen at key points, like we did, Will Davis, or yeah, Will did with his corn study, maybe look at key points for inorganic ion, and then maybe do some plant, coordinated with the plant sampling group.
Right, and that's something that's doable, but then looking at mineralization, for example,
Yeah.
soil, that's something where that's the kind of things that we haven't talked about, but I think there's potential to do that.
Yeah.
It has to be on selective treatments, and I think that's
Yeah,
what
we could do all, but we
have to define that and see what treatments we want to cover.
And Dorvar and I have been talking about maybe do wheat's easy to do N15. We can do some microplots. Problem with corn, we need bigger plots, but wheat allows you to get density, do some N15. So, you know, one of the grad students might be able to do some extra work on the nitrogen.
So Carlos, you were trying some of that in situ mineralization. How was your experience? Were you okay with the result that you had?
Yeah. But just about nitrogen, so we still have backup samples from the baseline from this year, and that will be on where will actually fall in year 3 and spring year 4. So we want to correct that. So that's something that we have to do that. 0, 5, 5, 5, 6.
Yeah, because one thing we need to think is how we're going to go about the nitrogen budget later, right?
Well, at least if you have beginning and the end, that would be the minimum. Just to have an apparent balance, just to say how much you apply, what is the early season action, and what is the end season.
So beginning of the end of the entire experiment.
Or beginning at the end of each of the seasons. Like when you start like saying, maybe you select one treatment, not all the treatments. I mean, you follow a treatment, for example, winter, and you go winter winter to harvest, and you go, that samples help you to go through the summer.
So I just had a student finish well, and he took pre-plant down to 9 to 7 minutes, and then after harvest 9 to 7 minutes, and and then we got whole plant update. You can do a real rough end budget, and it's okay. If we get mineralization, then you can actually add value to it. But so we could do. I mean, it's the labor of getting the sample, but inorganic again is easy to do. You know, so we could do pre-plant, post-harvest after wheat, which would be pre-plant for the summer crop, and then do post-harvest after the summer crop. And so you get the profile down to 9 centimeters. That should be fairly easy to do.
Yeah, I mean, that would be, I don't even think we need to do 90 centimeters. I don't think we can do it actually.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, I mean, on the north one,
Maybe
well, 60 centimeters, 45, 60 captured 90% of the nitrogen. So we wouldn't have to go that deep.
So one thing I think it's good to consider. So you have 0 to 6. Okay. So for soil health, we have 3 depths: 0, 2, 6, and 6 developers. So we also have example even for phase. I'm not sure if they're
target 120 centimeters, I think that's
Yeah, because I think
so for that we have both density, nitrogen, and the weather health. So we have these 3 different baselines. all the points.
All the 17 by 4. So at least one midpoint we have there. So we have the beginning and we have at least one midpoint for all plots.
I'll keep doing that for every plot I have this principle. And so I think when we put it into the side of treatment, you kind of go
So to finish this sort of sampling for the baseline, it took one entire day, very hard day, with probably 12 or 15 students. So we use students from Rumble, from Nazi, from Vervar, from Otterfield. And it's very long day with a lot of students.
We need to probably figure out how to be selective and do. That's a decision to make.
So these that I'm putting here, first year we had plant and soil. Second year, we only had plant. Then for the third year, you have the soil nitrogen again. We had plant. And then more safely, we can put that in the last one, we have plant and soil. And these I'm just considering for all plots. Okay.
So like, the year 4 are going to collect all of them, all the treatments again, or?
And the year 6.
Oh, 6. Okay.
That's a huge difference.
So then in the 4, you're going to keep it with the 4 treatments.
Yes.
Okay.
So should a template be created to capture all this information? So that way it's the same across. I mean, so they can use the same template with both of them. You can use to capture the same kind of information.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think that we did that. We had created a measurements in the beginning that was shared between here and OSU, but I feel that that's a little bit loose. And I had a feeling that Brian down there in Oklahoma is collecting a lot of data. So we're probably needing to catch up with them, I think.
Yeah.
That's the feeling that I
may
have.
not be doing all the soil measurements.
They are doing for that plant and soil library, they are doing both for all.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a
And also the treatments are more as compared to what you are having.
You have a couple more treatments, right?
Yeah. They're doing brain, morphine, tetraene, and they start a new treatment.
Okay.
So I think that if you really are thinking, if our goal is to do an action balance as a final thing on the project, we need to think about it. Because if not, I mean, you're from the summer side, we're collecting all the treatments. But if we're collecting only 4 plots for match, 4 treatments, so then we should start collecting only 4 treatments. I mean, you guys are the same in the winter. The summer is a lot. And we deploy, when he goes to the pit, he goes usually with 5 people, not only. So we put from another projects.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're doing the same.
Yeah, but I'm saying that we need to be smart on what are we collecting, rather than just to say, let's collect.
Right.
And just because, let's think about what we're collecting.
Yeah.
If the idea is really nitrogen balance as a final point, then we shouldn't be taking the measurement from all the treatments. If the soil is only from 4 treatments.
Well, I mean, so we're taking soil health from those 4 treatments, and then we'll do all the treatments at the end, but because we have the baseline. But I guess the question then is on the soil nitrogen side.
Yeah.
Do we do all treatments? Which I think all of our are saying no. And
we can, I guess we did it.
Well, I mean, I guess if you want just 0 to 60 centimeters inorganic add, that's relatively easy to do.
Yeah, if I'm gonna do that, then maybe it's more feasible. But initially, we target 100.
Yeah, but I think if we did 0 to 60, we could do poke it so it pre-plant post harvest, and then post-harvest. So 3 times a year.
3 times a year.
That's not bad. I think we can, Carlos. I mean, I always say yes, and on the student side.
I mean, if it's only one that, it's will be 64 cents. So
Well, 0 to 6.
yeah, that's
One part, yeah.
that's
So we're not breaking down in depth.
Well, we still would. You got to have it broken down.
yeah. No, that's yeah. If it's only for KCL, yeah.
But you could do 0 to 12, 12 to 24, and 24 to 36.
Then with the heaps program,
Yeah.
it's
But I might want to do one.
for auto plots. That would be illegal for it. So I mean, only our group can't do that.
Yeah.
So we need help from.
Well, that's store or
That's basically what we did last time. So
We
coordinated with
That's 2 days.
Okay. So maybe we don't do all 17.
Or if we do all of them, I don't think we can do the splitting.
I think you got to do.
We can split in 2 maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to split in 2. You got to do 0 to 12.
I mean, the other question is how you want to use this data, because we're talking about balance.
Right.
So balance in the profile. How much value you get from splitting every.
Well, maybe 12 inches.
Right.
Because if it tells you there's a bunch in the surface or there's a bunch down deep, that meant reach down there and accumulated. So that's why I want it to be somewhat split.
And we usually do every 12 inches, and what we find is that most of them tend to stay in the open 12 inches.
Yeah.
Very little goes down, except some soils that we see.
So thinking as the plan of now, right? Because the plan would be to sample all those 17 treatments again in the end, right? In detail, just like we did in the beginning. So having that initial value, and then we have how much we put out in each one of the plots. We have how much the crop actually took up by maturity for all crops. And we'll have the final one 6 years later. Now, we don't have details in between, but can we draw a balance with that very initial value, how much each crop took up?
Not with inorganic, no. No. No.
well,
I mean, you get a crop in uptake, but you it varies year to year, leaching and denertification and other things. So I don't think you might be able to get a crop in balance, knowing how much you put on and then how much was taken up in the crop, but you couldn't tell anything about soil nitrogen or the soil part of it. But I think what we're talking about is maybe a subset and doing some where we take year or 3 times during the year.
So if you can ask, you guys are taking plant samples on all of them?
Yeah.
Many times.
Several times this season.
Yeah.
Yep. We're doing 5, right? 5 times this season.
Then we need to the same soil.
Yeah.
If we're gonna do all the clusters with the
Right. Well, I would hope, like, if I could, Paula is going to do it, or there's another grad student comes in, he or she, would do some more seasonal and more detailed nitrogen, and some selected, but not.
Yeah, I mean, but the question, I agree with Ignacio. If we're gonna measure something in all of them, we have to do all of them, otherwise. But maybe that's a communication we need, because it seems like sometimes for some things we're looking at 4 plots, 4 treatments here and there. Yeah. And so we either need to decide to do all of them or not.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, Andres, because he's doing only 5, right? But he was pretty straightforward that was how many he could put out, and then we helped him select those 5 just from a labor perspective. I think we have been just measuring all the plots and going over them with Luana. At this point in time, it didn't even make sense to have all the plots measured, because many of them are still the same, because the rotation didn't start to change yet. But they will here in a little bit as we move forward in the project. So eventually, it's going to be good that we collected all that data. So from our side in the crops, I think we have enough to do that. But then we're getting to do that simple balance and to get a publication. Now the question is that we have several students involved, and then if we're using that data on the wheat, Ignacio on the summer crops, Then Paula, what's going to be her objective? For example, if it's the nitrogen balance of the entire system, then we need to be collecting that data.
Also, I think that we need to discuss, that's why the point of selecting and not selecting. For example, if this year we learned that some of the yields on corn are similar in treatments, will I expect any impact on wheat on those treatments? I don't think so. So we'll go and move all the 17 treatments again, when in fact you already have maybe those plots yielding the same. So you will not be seeing effect again. So we might need to discuss if you want to do it, if you really want to do a balance in more detail, then one option could be to focus on more intensity in some blocks and less intensity in other blocks.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
We are doing now only like 3 biomass samples, like early season, flowering, and then the end of the season, because like all the measurements that we do weekly, plus these, and plus the other huge study that we have on phenology, that it will be giving us much better information, because here we are fixing a plant today, or we don't even know if that is it. Or we are fixing a maturity, we don't even know if that is it. So we need to get some of the data to know that we are doing something right. That's why my thinking is going in the direction of we really need to talk about selective and thinking about selective treatments. Maybe if we go in that direction, then we scale down on some of the measurements, and maybe we open up the opportunity to do a little more on other things. Because at the end of the project, if our goal is not really related to this activity, but if our goal is to think about diversification and investigation, I'm not sure that we are going in that direction all the way. Because we are going and looking at rotations, but these rotations, I mean, Justin can comment on this, I think, they're not that different to what today farmers do. So if you really want to say we're doing something a little bit beyond, what is beyond?
Lean farmers are hard to have.
No, but I mean, even to say with like, I mean, sitting at the table with Justin and get his attention.
Yeah.
To get his attention of saying, wow, you guys are trying that. Wow, you guys try veg. You guys put a barley. Why? Right? I'm trying to discuss. Well, I mean, yeah. Well, who are discussing?
Anita doesn't like veg. I love veg.
Oh,
sorry, no, sorry.
I've been doing cover crop work in that area since 2007.
I know.
Number one for foundation wheat, Vernon's like absolutely no veg on this farm.
No veg.
So it's like,
Well, I was going to talk it out.
So I can just read the second comment. So it seems most farmers are utilizing fast growing warm season grasses such as millet and Sudan maize, perhaps with some broadleaf maize and beef for summer forage production after wheat. I'm certainly hopeful this study may identify some new species opportunities, but perhaps utilizing these warm season cover crops or meats to something. So they're really looking for something. Yeah.
so the study, so Craig Rosen has some of those that we
From my humble opinion, I think that the design is awesome. We put it together. I was part of it. So I'm including, I'm not excluding, but I realized that we put ourselves into a square. And then now we have this square. And the question is, how do we get out of the square? And then the issue is that one way to get out is to downscale it. Rethink about what are the things that we can learn from here and focus, laser tag. And then stop going in the direction of let's measure everything. And then maybe that question that Justin is asking, for example, Ruda can tackle maybe in another study, in a smaller study on the side. If you focus less on these, and then me would say, I will not complain if you guys plant alfalfa late, because if I have another section that I keep and control, and then he's testing 10 different grasses, that would play is still the same. I mean, and then testing.
Yeah. I don't mind
plant alfalfa as well. But that's not practical.
But that's new. That's new.
That's new, but, you know.
It's a positive mentality.
So, that's the whole idea is that you learn things that work or don't work, and then you make some adjustments, whether it's putting on a side study. We're early enough in, but I don't know. The question is, have we learned enough yet that we alter one of the rotations or two and do that if we're not learning that much? I think
that's a very good way to put it, John. I really like that because to me, I look at this and I'm seeing what it works, what doesn't work. If we can take those and focus more on it.
Yeah.
I think it still has a value from that standpoint. Yes, you can have challenges, but we're learning.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the main value I see. I now can go and see, okay, this treatment looks good. I can do something on the side, focus more on intensive sampling and everything.
Okay, I agree with that. The question is, for doing that learning, will you go and sample all the 17 treatments?
True.
Okay, that's my point.
Yeah. No, I mean
that's my point of saying, okay, I love the idea of having a rotation. It's our flagship. Hey, look at us. We have a study that looks awesome. We have aerial pictures. Then, are we really planning to learn something huge here, or probably just identify a few treatments and saying we should be looking more at this?
Yeah.
We should be looking more about what are the summer options, what are the winter options, what are the can we put another cover crop in the middle?
One thing that I agree with you also on the intensification we're doing on this diversified system is that something that we need. We tried the first year. What else can we include? If we do have some treatments that are flex, right? In theory, we can try something there.
Well, I mean, Justin, I mean, the field day, he came to me and basically just like saying, okay, tell me what to do. I'm finishing now with corn or soybean, tell me what to do now. I mean, like that, tell me what to do. Well, I mean, should I put veg, field peas? I mean, what is the response on that? I was just basically looking my experience saying, I like the idea of field peas if you ask me. I mean, right away. I may probably not like veg right away. I mean, my experience from Argentina would say, yeah, put veg, but not here. But field peas?
Yeah, and that's something I like that too. I think that's something we can try.
Okay, so real life now. So one of the farmers of the Farmers Farm Network just emailed me 2 weeks ago asking if we have a winter cover crop right, a plant. So what did we learn from 17 treatments that we can recommend to him?
Cover crop winter. I mean, my response to Justin was like,
and so
I think that winter field pea will work.
I think that the field, I want to try that because I talked to Ray yesterday, and he said he doesn't want to put anything that's going to have a yield penalty form.
Yeah, he mentioned this.
And I understand, you know, some yield penalty. So he heard also the
I mentioned
fees.
He was there.
That sounds interesting. So
he was. I mean, besides Justin asked me the both. Then he hear about this and he say, okay, can you say that again? And I'm like, okay, guys, it's not that I have the data.
Yeah,
it's just my personal.
Okay. What do they want to get out of the cover crop?
They just want to get some cover, and hopefully they want to get potentially some natural.
So
for me was, and then also going to corn. If you want to go back to corn, I think that the best combination in maybe is a legume or a brassica. So from our standpoint, I say it might be something that it would be nice to test and to have a cover in the winter.
That's why I told you, you got to throw that in.
Just to have.
So within the current design, we could do that on treatment, on the adaptive treatment, which is 2 and 3.
Yeah. So I guess the question is, can we alter the rotation? That we got the baseline. Do we alter something in here, or could we do a side experiment? And we probably need both. So we and we got enough grad students that we don't measure everything on the main spot, but then that student puts in a special project. I mean, ancillary that they focus on.
Last year we did a small test.
Yeah.
I mean, last year we do like saying winter wheat, canola, pennycress, barley. So we kind of a test in a street to look at winter survival. But I mean, we simulate that we have corn.
Yeah.
We planted like in November.
Yeah.
Really November, I mean, mid-November was just to look at winter survival.
So the grad students be thinking about this. Yeah.
And for sure, that's a question that we are not answering in the current project, because there's no way, nowhere in that list that we have cover crop listed. We have hay, but we're removing all that biomass. We have dual purpose, right? We have dual purpose, and we have grain only treatments. So there's an opportunity there. You know, there's no cover crop, but do we need to change the design, or do we change the experiment at this point to add?
I have a comment. So as of winter crop, I'm going to talk about it tomorrow, but out of the 17 treatments we have as of this year, which is the third year, right? We have 9 treatments by the end of the story, which means that out of the 17 treatments, we could combine all of them in 9 treatments. So I think out of 17, we can we end up with 9. We have a lot of room to change there, you know. And then I know that the summer crops was mostly corn, and you guys had some different crops, right?
Corn and
soybeans. Yeah, soybeans. Yeah. So yeah, considering that that as well as of this year, I think there are a lot of rotations that's not going to change for wheat next year as well. So I think if we open up the 17 list of treatments, we can see a lot of room to change there. And as of this year, a lot of treatments are exactly the same. So
still, I think that my comment was more on the direction of saying that more thinking, because Ignacio's here, he just arrived too, and I'm thinking about, am I using his time well or not? And I want to make sure that if we use it, it's intentional to the project, on the sense of if we measure, if I'm asking him to go and measure 17 treatments because we are thinking that we're trying to discover something new, I might probably just say, let's go with 4, maybe that we are most promising, and then let's keep the technology study, and maybe we answer another question of saying, what are the best combination of winter before corn, for example, and then maybe someone else answer another question, that is, what is the best grass combination on forage? But those ones for me, they need to be a little bit outside of this, because I mean, you could, by one unit, when you get the knowledge on thinking that, okay, this seems to be the best field piece, then I think that you can bring it to. Yeah. You can just, okay, I will change 1 or 2 of the treatments and now put fields. But I will try to get some knowledge before I go and jump and change it. Yeah, that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, we could tweak 1 or 2 or 3, but I wouldn't say, you know, 9 out of the 17, we got 8 to flex with, because we want to look at some of the long-term effects. It's not just 1 or 2 years, it's like from the soil properties, but even the residue buildup and the weed management, that sometimes it takes 3 or 4 years. So I wouldn't want to abandon 8 of those treatments.
No. Oh, no,
I didn't say that. Sorry.
Yeah, but
I just say that there are some.
But I think, you know, there's a possibility to tweak. And now I would do it now rather than year 4. But because again, it's a look at the long term. But I think what Ignacio was saying was, let's, you know, now maybe we do some side studies. Now we got a full complement of people hired, and we can answer some of the Justin Knaus or Flickner questions. We've learned some things here. I think we can be smart in what measurements we take. We don't have it. The question is, what's the right measurements to take, and how often, and does it have to be all 17, or does it have to be those 9, and then but we keep the others to do kind of long-term effects and not do the intensive. That's why, you know, from a soil health, just from a labor standpoint, even with all the people we have, it's a lot of work, and so there's no way we can do 17.
My opinion was not to change. I don't feel today with my abilities to really give a recommendation to make a change, because we don't have enough data. Right. This year was the first year that we're really in the first year. Yeah. First year that we're planting a corn that is extremely late, but then we kind of went in the direction. Okay, we need to know about the technology. We don't even know how corn behaves after May 31st. No data. So we need to understand all the breeding and the CRM and the maturity for this crop has been done, an optimal planting date, and we don't even know how we take. There are recommendations that they are saying that you should be increasing your CR if you plant it. All the opposite what we recommend many times. So until we don't get some good data on phenology and understand how the plant behaves, we don't even know what happens. And then also we are saying, okay, July 5th, the planting day this year, 6. I was explaining to Ignacio because he was not here. You guys harvested on a Friday, and then last time was not available, so we waited until Tuesday, and then when last time was available, so we were able to get on Thursday, of course, 4th of July. I mean, not for me. I was completely fine when he said I'm not available on Saturday and Sunday. I was like, yeah, that's fine. But we don't even know what happens if you are planting a week before or a week after, or how that environment is explored. My only comment is, if I'm using his time and the time of or whatever number of people we have, should we rethink on what measurements we take and maybe focus more on less treatments, and then we open up a possibility to say, okay, can we do another satellite study looking at the effect of winter types or on corn?
Or summer types on wheat, and all these open
I mean, some ideas, you know? I mean, but for doing that, we need to really be careful, because I'm not saying change these, but I'm saying maybe we can downscale this. Like we can just say, okay, let's keep working on this, but not probably like 5 something times, 6 something times, and not probably 17 treatments, maybe 4 or 5 treatments that we say they are the most specific treatments.
I think that's basically what we are doing for the soil health. So we will have a complete soil health assessment, and, well, a complete soil assessment, not soil health assessment, the first year and the last year, year 1 to 6. But in the meanwhile, we are selecting some of the treatments to do some more detailed analysis, to have that data as well, understand the seasonal variability, temporal variability, things like that. I think we could maybe select some treatments, maybe here in this breakout room, and then focus on taking, okay, so we are going to take samples for nitrogen in 2 depths in the year 1, 3, 4, and 6. So if residents know that, we can coordinate between us. Go there one day, take the samples, analyze, done. I think it's just a matter of being clear. So which plot we want to sample and when, and then we can coordinate that.
I mean, from my side, only clear point, and I'll stop. It's just that if we really want to target the question from Justin, we really want to go in that direction. This is not getting us.
No.
Well,
I mean, it's okay.
If we asked 100 farmers, we would need that.
No. I'm saying that this is a nice baseline, but it's not getting us there. We will be here in 3 years more, finishing all these, and then Justin will be here, and I think that he would say, we didn't achieve what we were planning.
And I think, well, that's
Hey, Romulo, can you hear me?
what you're saying.
Just a second. Yeah, Justin.
I think we really need to separate out the intensification piece from diversification. Because right now you're trying to do both in one experiment, and which is doing the cumulative treatments, as you're saying. So if we can just focus on the intensive part, which could be 9 treatments, because they've not yet changed, the remaining 8 has not yet changed. And then as Ignacio is suggesting, you do a diversification test on the side, with what USDA is doing. You already have so many summer crops and then the winter one. Let's say you do that this year or next year, this year, you come up and say next year, PLP or the rest of the test. Then you modify your dynamic treatment to put that in there. Yes, and that will allow you.
I think we did talk a little bit about that. For example, the temporary mod. I really like them. You know.
Yeah, but they perform pretty good at the
Right. So I feel like maybe we just from last 3 years. Yeah. And so I feel like maybe we just didn't do it right the first year.
So because I think that the germination was very
well. The seeding rate was pretty low. They sent us very low seeding rate. So everything late, those two ended. Yeah.
But maybe we should try again.
Yeah, we can definitely
try. Maybe we do one like that that's kind of risky, and then something POP that's less risky. You know, but still your diverse one.
Justin, did you want to make a comment?
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay? Sorry,
Sorry,
I'm not there. I gosh, I really value being able to listen into this, and don't mean to throw wrenches into your treatments. I think, you know, looking at the big picture of the study of increasing the precipitation use efficiency and nitrogen use efficiency and soil health and reducing those losses, some of these periphery decisions, like talking about, like Ignacio was talking about, we're struggling, you know, we're using winter triticale or rye, mostly cereals ahead of, as a winter cover. We're having trouble knowing a broadleaf to use that doesn't winter kill. But it's not so much finding an economic value or the forage value out of that broadleaf. It is having something in place that I believe having this systems approach of having something growing over the winter is helping us in the following corn crop increase our precipitation use efficiency and nitrogen use efficiency. So I know this is all gray and hard to put black and white plots together on, but for instance, you know, I just think that your trials, your treatments that are the most intense need to have something growing there absolutely all the time. I think the farmers that are trying to implement this system are getting to that point. We haven't figured out the species exactly yet. And I think the next thing on the horizon that I keep pushing Ignacio is we need to not only have something growing all the time, but those need to start, those interlaps need to start overlapping each other from either an intercrop or more of a handoff and a relay, have the next crop growing at the time before that one is finishing up. And that, you know, to me, that systems approach is what's going to increase our productivity or intensification. And these either winter or the triticale, you know, you guys removed all that biomass and everything. And I understand we need to measure how much biomass and productivity we have there, but then that's also hurting us in the next crop and hurting our weed control, and it's increasing our evaporation. Most of the farmers at this point, our rule of thumb is we only want to remove 50 to 60% at most of something that's growing out there. So I know that's hard to put in a research state of mind, you know, in a research project. But I just encourage you to continue to think and ask those questions about how do we balance getting good data that's replicated and we can run statistics on and it's pretty black and white with a systems approach. When we think about weed ecology, Dr. Dealey, from a systems approach that gives us something that is keeping those palmers from being out there in the summertime and reducing our canopy temperature in the soybeans and allow us to have more water available and more carbon available and biology that is attaching to those roots and carrying more water to them, and eliminating our soil erosion. So when I look at Romulus, sometime if you could send me that trials list that you showed on one of those slides, I think I'd like to study that a little bit more, and not that we want to change those by any means, but I think that would be something good perhaps for you guys to have some input on, to send it to myself and some other farmers and just say, you know, is this going to answer some questions as far as intensification that you guys are trying to wrestle through? What do you see that's wrong with these crop rotations and these sequences, and what do you see that's right about it that you have questions about? That maybe we should have gone through that exercise probably more in the start of it, but you know, I heard a little bit about, I couldn't quite make it out, but seeding alfalfa in that window, and I'm a little curious about that. As you know, how long are we planning on leaving that in place? So So just, you know, there's a lot of in-field information from farmers in Kansas and Oklahoma that have some of this somewhat narrowed down. But I think the job of the research is to identify these new opportunities that we haven't tested or tried, but let's just make sure we're not testing things that we know probably are likely either have been tested or may not work or may not add to the overall systems approach. So just some of my comments, just listening in. So thank you for letting me listen to this conversation, guys.
Yeah, those are great comments there, Justin. Thanks for making them. And we always appreciate the feedback. And I appreciate the comment that you made on being bad, removing all that biomass. It was a lot of work. I wish we didn't have to remove that. So maybe that's the first thing we're gonna adopt from Justin is not remove that biomass anymore. So no, I appreciate it, Justin. Thank you. Yeah, and definitely a lot of food for thought, right? I mean, and we did have one treatment or a couple of treatments that were growing all the time, and we later decided to add a winter fallow there. And I think that's kind of a challenge between coordinating what goes on here and in Oklahoma at the same time, because we were trying to have the exact same layout when probably we should have had layouts that were a good fit there versus a good fit here as well. So.
Are you guys done?
We're just done.
We're not even halfway through that list yet.
You said 5 o'clock.
Well, we did, yeah. Well, we got tomorrow, so. All right, so yeah, where do we want to go from here? Well, I think, you know, some of this we checked off. I think we're okay on that, but you know, we really got to 1.3 and 1.4 and added that discussion. So,
I would say, I would make a comment, I mean, connected with Justin. I'd rather spend an hour, as we spend now, than just checking the box.
Oh, yeah,
right. Definitely. Yeah.
I don't care about if I finish.
Yeah.
I will do it, I will be honest. I'd rather listen to Justin and telling us we should be thinking, but I also make an excellent comment that is what we were discussing in Cassie on the way here. Should we do an intensification and diversification in a different way? Because we're not looking at diversification. And what Justin is telling us, I mean, and I think that is coming from several farmers, is help us. I mean, we want to look at options. We want to know what's going on, not only just to think about the long-term rotation and productivity for the next 10 years in the state, but also, can you help us to understand what happens if I change the crop, what happens if I move the crop of planting day, what happens if I do anything? And those are the questions that really the true feedback on thinking for us. Are we doing that or not? I think that these are all logistics. I think that we can have another meeting on logistics. And
yeah.
But my focus is, or at least one of the things that I would propose is like maybe we will do next year more intense measurements on few treatments, and then we put some efforts on other things, on looking at more diversification, and then trying to look at options.
So I think the rest of these, yeah, well, those are more with the computer or with the modeling group on that. So yeah, so I think, I think I would agree with Nacio. The other group's coming in, but maybe we can finish up tomorrow, really talking about this, because the measurements and these other, it's not checking box, but it's coordination. But we got to get this down. I think, well, 2 years, we've learned some things. So we're at a position that can we make some adjustments, either on the main plots or take fewer measurements on the main plots and add some extra plots. So we talked about NUE, the nitrogen, maybe do a sidebar and a nitrogen study, rate study, or like the seasonality of soil health, that we can do that inside plot, but that was after Karen our usage, we go, oh crap, so it, that's okay. That's research. So you should be learning and adapting. Obviously, you don't want to screw up your statistical design, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, so again, continue tomorrow there.
Yeah.
But I think tomorrow what we can discuss is what a path forward looks like, right? The 17 treatments are there. I agree that we shouldn't probably change that a whole lot there for this one, especially because those when we group them into 9 at the moment for the wheat that are the same, it's just because we have several of them where the summer crop is happening in 1 year, but it's coupled with 2 other treatments that's going to happen next year. So in the beginning of that project, this was expected that they would have some overlap, but we have those 4 treatments that we can explore on these more intensive things and with satellite projects too. So yeah, maybe tomorrow we can meet to define how that's going to look like first thing in the morning.
We have a time for
I think it's 8, right? 8 to 9.
So you can still be talking, looking at posters, have some adult beverages, think about it more, eat talk over dinner, and all that. I might be looking for this. So the question is, you want to take, sorry, I can't. You want, it's okay, people, okay, got 20 or 30 minutes to watch it's not a dance movie. Okay.